Hi and welcome to Teddy TV. On this episode we're going to be doing something slightly different and we're going to be looking at tackling commercial venues in the depths of winter. Today you join me at Fen Lakes here in Lincolnshire for something a little bit different because previously we've concentrated on deep water, rivers and more natural venues. Today, at last, we've had no frost, so I'm quite excited by that prospect. The fish might have a little bit of a chew. However, we've had a lot of snow this week, so the water's very much up. It's up around 6-7 inches where all the snow has gone into the lake. Benefit of that, it does give the water a bit more colour, but at the same time, a lot of cold water has gone in, which will probably affect the fishing. I thought I'd kick off the session by talking through the bait tray. Today on this venue, another thing which is slightly different is that we can't use ground bait. It's not allowed on this venue unless you're using it for paste. I have no intention of fishing paste in this weather. So what are the options when it comes to tackling these commercial waters with the Teddy Fisher range? So first of all, the good old faithful red and white maggots. To boost these and to give them a little bit of sort of something different, I use the vanilla additive. I use that as a substitute for maize when I went into the tackle shop yesterday. Just a little bit pinch of maize, please, and then I sort of bulk it out with the vanilla additive to give something a little bit different. Similarly, we've got some fluorescent pinkies, and these are really important for this time of year. If things are really desperate, then double pinky, just sort of lowered in nice and tidy, can make all the difference. With that in mind as well, we've got some fishery pellets, just 2 milli micros, and we're going to give them a little bit of a boost with our booster range. But the main plan of attack today will be these little lovely wriggly things here, the worms, and we're going to give them a boost as well. So let's have a little look at how I approach with these different baits. First of all, with the worms, what I tend to do is they come in, of course, a Hessian sack, and it comes in some peat. I riddle the worms off and get some peat separate into a separate bait box, and then I give them a bit of a wash, and you probably see the remnants of the peat on the water there, so the worms are relatively clean. What I'm then going to do is give them a bit of a boost with our bloodworm booster. So let's do that now. Just a bit of a glug, it wakes them up a little bit, and then we're going to give these worms a good old chop with some triple scissors. Now, I want these relatively fine because we're going to be targeting today the silvers in this lake. This water is called Meg Lake. There's two here on the complex. The main Fen Lake, which has a good head of silverfish, but it's predominantly carp, whereas this lake has eyed, skimmers, perch, roach, hybrids, and carp up to about sort of 3-4 pound. So we're going to give them a good old mince through and make that like mush, because we don't want them to fill the fish up. We don't want big pieces. In the summertime, come spring, the worm's a devastating tactic. We'll want slightly bigger chunks and bigger pieces, but today I want it like a bit of a mush. And in there you can see lots of juice, lots of attraction. The juices aren't going to fill the fish up, they're just going to draw them in. And a little bit more. And what I'm then going to do is get that peat that we had from the bag and add that in on top. We're going to give that a good old stir. Any residual worms that are not quite chopped, just get them done. And then what I'm going to do, open up my bag of fishery pellets. I'm going to give a sprinkle of those pellets in there as well. Not too many. And they're going to soak in all those juices and that bloodworm booster that we've put in. And that will do us for my mixed bag line, let's call it that, and we'll talk through rigs and tactics in a little while. And that will soak up all the bits and pieces, ready for another chop in a little while. With the main pellets themselves, what we're going to do, we're going to pour them into a tub, fill the tub about half full, You see that? And then we're going to cover them with water. Give them a little stir. And you can see we just about covered the pellets. And with these, we're going to give them a little boost with Scopex. So just something a little bit different. There's a couple of other chaps on the lake as well, and if this was a match situation, we want to be trying to make our bait stand out from the competition. And we're going to leave that now. Probably a bit too much water in this, so just get rid a little bit. I'm going to leave them to soak up the water and the booster that we just added. Worms for the hook, I've got some of these funny little funky green dendrobinas that we can have a go at. And to accompany these pellets, we've got some expanders there too. Same thing, I'm going to take the Scopex booster and I'm just going to pour a little dash in the top of there. Put the pump on the top. These are just 4mm expanders. Get a little bit of a mix so that Scopex gets in the water. Draw them out. Release the air. Do another pump. And there you go. They've all sunk. And we're going to pour that water into a tub. Take off the top. And put them expanders into there and let them fluff up. Last but not least, so we've got some pinkies and maggots, and I'll fish them over the chopped worm line for anything that swims basically on a day like today. I'm going to fish the micro pellets with an expander over the top a little bit further out, looking for, there's a lot of carassios in here as well, so carassios and carp. And then last but not least, we've got some good old Mother's Pride there. We've got a couple of slices of bread, and I'll pop them into my bread box there, my punch box, and I'm going to sort of daub along the far side just to kick off the session, see if we can find 1 or 2 carp. So not necessarily a complicated bait tray, but it gives us a number of options on such a cold day in such shallow water. We're talking about sort of 3.5 foot on Meg Lake here, so it's about covering our options really and just taking it from there. So let's get fishing, let's look at the tactics and the rigs. Okay, starting the session then, let's sort through some rigs and tackle. First of all, the main rig that I think I'm going to use the most today will be this mixed rig, shall we say. It's a Drennan AS3 float, 0.3 of a gram. A good general rule of thumb with float weights is every 0.1 gram per foot of water. So I've got about 3.5 foot here, so 0.3 of a gram's perfect. What I've done is I've got a bulk of 6 number 10s just sort of 3/4 of the way down, and then in the last 2 foot of water just 2 number 10 droppers. It's 0.13 the line, and 0.11 hook length with an 18s Guru F1 hook. Could be seen to be a little bit overgunned, but you know, there's some reasonable carp that can pull you around, and I need a reasonable hook because I'm using worm or double mag. I don't want to be masking the point of a little hook. Elastic wise, it's a 5 Jura hybrid. We use that same rig, same elastic on the last feature that we did. I'm going to be fishing about 9 meters, just in the open water, little balls of that mush that we made earlier on with 1 or 2 maggots over the top. Now, as the sun comes round now, you'll see across the way, I know this lake quite well, I fish a winter leak here, and I know that across that is a sunken island where those rushes are. I'm just waiting for the sun to get a little bit higher and offer a little bit of warmth, because it's only 18 inches deep over there, but strangely on this lake, regardless of the weather, I've noticed the carp do show themselves and they do go into that shallow water. So this dobbing rig is a Drennan AS4, 0.2 of a gram, couple of shot underneath just to get the float going, and then just 2 number 10s to take the bread down. Same again, 0.11 hook length, a 18s F1 hook, and I'll fish a 6mm disc of bread on that and just dob along the far side when I start seeing a couple of fish move. I'm sure they will do if the sun keeps as it is. Slightly heavier elastic, it's a 7 Jura hybrid, and it's a short top kit as well, just so I can have a little bit more control over the fish. A long line between the float and the tip of the pole, it's about 3 foot. just to keep it away from the heads. A couple of number 8s as a back shot as well. And then the last rig is my pellet rig. So I made those micros before and expanders, a little bit of Scopex liquid in there. I'm going to fish this to an angle to my right hand side, on line with the bush, again about 9 metres or so, but I can move around. There's F1s, Carasio, skimmers, eyed, perch, roach, bits and pieces, and of course carp up to about sort of £3 in here. Same line again, 0.13, 0.11, 18's hook, and that is a 7 Jura hybrid. So let's have a little look on this mixed line, shall we say. I'm just going to start off with a single red maggot and a little ball of that mush that we've put together with 1 or 2 maggots on top, and we'll just see how we go. The chaps on my right hand side are getting 1 or 2 eyed, which is a good sign. Got a number 8 back shot on this as well because there's a bit of a wind. It's okay now. Just a little ball of that mush in there. It's okay now, but there's a wind coming from right to left, so just to control the flow, I've got quite a long lash between my float and pole tip. But this is the main line, and as always, work our way into the session. I'm looking for eyed and roach and anything that swims here at the minute. And if I need to do something, if it's not a lot happening, there's a bite. If I need to do something later, I'll start pinging a few maggots over the top. But for now, we'll just work with the cad pot. That's a little, what's that? That's a rudd. So that's a nice start to the session, a nice little rudd. Fisheries kindly let me put my net in for today. So let's just repeat that process. Single red maggot, a tiny little bit of mush, literally sort of 3 or 4 maggots on the top, and then we'll go out and repeat the process. And it could be, as I say, when the water warms up, I can go long. It's 14.5 metres to that island across. Little ball. Now, originally my plan was so that my shot strung out and fish through the layers. You probably remember on the last video that we did, it was all about these thermoclimes where the fish are hiding. That's a little bite on the drop. So I might string them out yet, but because we've not got as much water to play with, I do believe the fish will be generally in that bottom sort of 18 inches. That's why I didn't start off with a strung out rig. But if I start pinging a few maggots and they do come up with the sun out, you never know. So there is a bit of colour in the water because of all the snow that's gone in, but it might have just pushed the fish up off the bottom. We'll see. It's just a case of working our way into the session. Little touch then, and just taking it sort of steady. What I've found in the past on here during the winter leagues is that the bites can be very, very finicky. Getting a little touch there now. These Carasios that are in here, that's a bite. These Carasios that are in here are an absolute nightmare for their bites. That elastic's working lovely, so I should be able to land anything on this really. That is a small-eyed. What's this, a little Carasio? It's interesting. Okay, well, little change of angle for you. Just put a little ball of mush in actually, just to show you that I've actually moved. I've put another section on. This is the second time now. Started off at sort of 7 metres, 8 metres, and I'm now over 11 metres away. And it's definitely a day of moving, and you find that on these commercial waters is that you put a little ball of the mush in or whatever you're using and draws the fish in. You catch 1 or 2 and then they're backing off. And that seems to be the case. So I'm sort of now at the bottom of the shelf as it starts sloping up to the island, probably a couple of inches shallower than this deeper water. The bites actually seem a little bit more positive, which is a bit strange. But I've had sort of 3 or 4 eyed on the bounce. Just popping 1 or 2 maggots over the top as well, just to sort of try and draw fish in. But if I exhaust this part now where I'm fishing, then there's not really that much scope to move. I can't go any further because it'll be really shallow. So I'd have to move to the left, to the right, and it could just be a couple of feet. That's what happens with these commercial fish. They find where they're comfortable, and if you spook the shoal, they'll just move a little bit. You find that happens a lot with the F1s, but also these eyed little silvers, if they're spooky as they are today, these very finicky bites, you might just have to sort of replumb up again and start again, and I think that's going to be the theme of the day now. I've had a couple more dobs along that far bank, nothing. It's still worth having a look if there's any carp about. There's a bite. What's this? Another one of them eyed, is it? Yeah. Lovely to see, and that water's clearing now. So these are the sort of stamp, lovely fish, good stamp fish. And I've still got that pellet line that I've put in at 11 metres to my left slightly, so I can always go to that at some point as well. But let's have one more look at this. Another little ball of mush. Nothing silly, just a little bit of ball of. I'll stick a couple of maggots on top as well. But I think that's the theme though today is, and you know, don't be stubborn, sticking on one bit and hoping the fish turn up. It's a case of moving around, and that's how it is. That's how the fish wants it. So there you go, and just drop that bait. That bulk's just dropping down now. Hold it tight, and those last 2 shot, just registering. There's a bite, so that's positive. So I think we'll keep just repeating this process and just playing it by ear. Put a few fish in the net. If it dries up, we'll move again and perhaps look over that pellet line as well. So we shall continue. Eyed. Well, we're very much in the witching hour now, so the light's starting to fade. It's sort of 2:30 in the afternoon. The wind's dropped, and this is the sort of time really I'd expect my pellet line to kick in, and I'd see those carp move across, and it's just not been the case at all. Very much an eyed day. So I guess I'm just going to plug away now. For these eyed, I've changed my hook length to a fluorocarbon hook length. I've gone to a size 20 hook. Continuing with the little nuggets and mush and a few maggots over the top, and just putting odd fish in the net as and when there's a bite. What's this? I feel like an eyed, we'll see. I've tried dobbing across, no joy, except just one little eyed again. This is an eyed too. And the pellet lines yielded nothing, so I think it's just one of those days where you've got to work through the card and try different things. I tried the waggler to the point of the island. My peg looks a bit like a jumbo sail at the minute. I just got a strung out shot, just searching through the layers, seeing where these eyed are sat. I might have broken my golden rule. I always stick by the 3 rules of location, presentation and feeding. I think location wise I might have slipped up today, because these last 15-20 minutes, when I expect these carp to move and bits and pieces having a bit of a feed, I have seen them move on the other bank. It could be that because there's myself and a few chaps pleasuring, there's 4 of us in a line pretty much, it could be that the fish have pushed to that far bank with the activity over it. It could be that. So maybe I should have gone on the other bank out of the way, I don't know. But I think that's the game plan now, is we just sort of continue to the end of the session, just plugging away for these eyed, fishing the maggot through the water, little nuggets of that mushworm, and take it from there. I might have another look on my pellet line, but I genuinely don't get the sense that anything will be over that, and if there is, it'll probably be the eyed again. Even the chaps that I can see, you know, what they're catching, it's all eyed. I think I've had a roach and a rudd as well, and everything else has been an eyed, so it's a lift and drop. So yeah, strange day. I would have expected dobbing to perhaps a couple of bites, a couple of carp maybe, but it's just one of them. It's how the day's panned out. It's an eyed day. As we come to the end of the session, let's have a bit of a recap. So we've made that worm mush at the start, and we started at 6 metres. We had 1 or 2 eyed. They soon fizzled out, so we stuck another section on. Had a couple more eyed. They fizzled out, and we went to 11 metres, and we repeated the process. And then I've tried the waggler at the end of the island. I've tried dobbing across, eyed. And just finishing the session now, I'm having a look over my pellet line with maggot on the hook, and we're getting a few skimmers right towards the end of the session. Very, very small, much smaller than the eyed, but it just goes to show that in the witching hour, you know, the fish do often switch on, but all day it's been very, very tricky, and it's just been these eyed that have been feeding. But there's bites to be had, and that's the most important thing. I guess it's a little bit disappointing that we didn't manage any of the carp. There's a fair few in here, that's for sure, and these little Carasio. This is a pellet line now. Doesn't feel like a skimmer. What's this? Oh, it's another eyed. That's with a maggot on the hook over the micros. And it's just been these really we've been putting in the net. We've not battered it, we've not bagged up. And with the filming we have to stop and start, and you know, you struggle to get into a bit of a routine. But it's been enjoyable, you know, trying to work things out, moving around, bulking the shot together, spreading the shot out a couple of inches over depth, just off the bottom, you know, really going through the card to try and get bites. And as I said before, perhaps I could have gone on the other bank, give myself a bit more room, because there's definitely been, certainly down that end of the lake, there's been a few carp rolling around. The lads along to the right of me have had good days, that again with the eyed, you know, they've kept busy. So if you've got a venue, commercial like this, shallow, albeit, oops, little tangle there. If you've got a commercial venue that's, you know, it might be shallow, 3.5 foot like this, even in these freezing conditions, give yourself as many options as you can. Bring lots of different hook baits. You know, give yourself a target for the fish to home in on, like I've done with them little balls of mush or little nuggets of micros like we've got going in here. and there's certainly bites to be had. So I think what we'll do, we'll just sort of plug away now and then, call it a draw, get a little catch shot, and call it a day. Well, as you can see, we've had plenty of bites today. You have to keep busy, keep working hard and rotating. Lots and lots of lovely hide, really good stamp. You know, I've had one little Carasio, and I've got a few skimmers towards the end as well on the pellet line, but fishing a maggot on top. So overall, can't complain. Keep it simple, keep working hard on these commercials in winter, and there's plenty of bites to be had. Cheers for watching.